folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. Good morning, everybody. It's 11:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Friday, April the 3rd, 2020. I'm half an hour doing the show half an hour later than I normally do. That's because I had a voiceover session this morning, and I wanted to push the show just because I thought I was going to go over time, and I did by a little bit. But the good news is that I'm here now. It's Friday, and, I thought, why not just have a chill show today? Let's relax. Let's calm down. Calm the fuck down! And just sort of have an all Friday Q&A. See what I did there? Rhymed. Kind of. Not really a great rhyme. But anyway, I thought we would do that. Whatever kind of questions you want to have, whatever you want to talk about. Of course, the news on the entertainment front is, news that I want to talk about. I mean, listen, there's always news coming down the pipe in the world of entertainment, but, in a lot of cases, it's stuff that I'm not particularly interested in, or I don't care, you know what I mean? Or it's kind of like, oh, okay, cool, for example, I know there are people that are like, are you going to talk about how Ghostbusters and Morbius was moved to 2021? And I'm like, hey, well, number one is I don't care about the Morbius. I never even heard of the character until like last year. So, I couldn't care less whether that's pushed to 2021 or 2091. I don't care. So it's not a movie that I particularly, I'm not, you know what I'm talking about. Ghostbusters, I do care because I'm a big Ghostbusters fan, right? And I would say that I'm disappointed that it was moved to 2021, but it's understandable why it was moved to 2021. And yeah, there we go. There's not really a lot to talk about there. You know what I mean? So I kind of find that because the entertainment industry has sort of shut down for all intents and purposes, there's a lot of things that are sort of, for me anyway, as somebody who's likes to give commentary on movies, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of, okay, things are a little slow, right? Naturally for everybody. Until that picks up again, and we don't know when that's going to be, we kind of have to do the best we can and ride the wave and find some interesting things to talk about, which is why in my last two episodes, I did my science fiction movie idea concept, which I thought was really cool, and you guys would appreciate. And then, of course, yesterday I gave some insight into the world of voiceover and sort of the things you have to think about if you are interested in pursuing a career as a professional voice actor. So, I thought that's a bit different, and then today it's Friday, so I'm like, why not do an all Q&A? That might, be fun, right? Chill, relaxed. Shooting some b-ball outside of the school, and a couple of guys are up to no good. They started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight. My mom got scared and said, "You're moving to Botswana." Oh my goodness, I took a little bit too much water into my mouth there. It's over. He's gone. How are you guys doing? How are you guys hanging in? It's a crazy time right now. We've been saying it for a while, and it is crazy. Brandon Barry sends in a super chat. Thank you, Brandon. Really appreciate you supporting the channel that way, man. Dave, most mind-blown movie ending for me is The Prestige. Ooh, that's a good one. The Prestige, 2006, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, directed by Christopher Nolan. Fantastic movie. Love that movie. David Bowie's in that too. Rest in peace, David Bowie. I will say, for me, that's a good one. Most mind-blown movie ending. I gotta say, one that I can remember, me going, what the fuck, was 2007's The Mist. That is one of the most jaw-dropping, unexpected endings I've ever experienced in a movie. And it's not that it's unexpected, right? It's like, oh my God, you were so close, and you just, I don't want to say anything to anybody who hasn't seen it. And I like that movie. And, some of the CG I think is a little, but it's directed by Frank Darabont. And I wish Frank Darabont would do more stuff. I wish Frank Darabont would direct more feature films, because He doesn't. And he, of course, directed The Shawshank Redemption, which is arguably one of the greatest movies in the history of motion pictures. 5 years later, he directs The Green Mile, which is an incredible adaptation of that Stephen King story. And then he directed The Majestic in 2001, which I haven't seen, but I hear is not bad. And then, of course, he directs The Mist in 2007. He's only directed, as far as I know, 4 major feature films. And let's just say at least 3 of the 4 of them have been really good. And he does a lot of TV. I know he's directed a lot of The Walking Dead and things like that. He does a lot of TV. But man, I would love to see Frank Darabont back in the feature film chair. He hasn't directed a feature film in 13 years. And he directed, as I said, The Green Mile, The Shawshank Redemption, The Mist. The Mist has got to be one of the greatest surprise endings I've ever experienced in my life. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, so I would say that is definitely one for me for sure. Let's see here. Corey Dean says 7 versus Silence of the Lambs. Which do you prefer? I prefer 7 over Silence of the Lambs. But to be fair, I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs in a long time, like maybe 25 years. So I think, 25 years ago, I would have been, what was I? I was 10, 20. Well, I was 15 years old. So, or 16. So maybe it's about time that I watch it through the lens of an adult. I remember liking it and appreciating it. I was old enough to be like, wow, this is really good. But I think I need to watch that movie again through the lens of a 40-year-old man as opposed to a teenager, and then make up my mind accordingly. 7 is a classic that I watch, on a semi-regular basis. So, I mean, it's, 7 for sure is just unbelievable. Tony Movie Chappie. I'll just say that because your name is really long. Hey Dave, do you think that we will ever see the JJ cut of The Rise of Skywalker, or is Disney too scary to release it because they too scary to admit that they was a better cut of the movie? I think you mean too scared to release it because they're too scared. Well, first of all, let's just say this, because this is very important. There is no objective, quantifiable evidence that a JJ cut exists, okay? I'm not saying that one does not exist, but there may be one. But you cannot go by hearsay just because somebody online named Billy Bob's Movie Blog or somebody on Reddit says this, that, or the other doesn't mean that it's true. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not true, but there's so much, like, for example, I will often say you can't believe everything, you see or you hear on Reddit, let's say, for an example, right? And then somebody will immediately come back and say, yeah, but Dave, did you see all the leaks from The Rise of Skywalker? They were on Reddit. What does that mean? Well, yeah, of course. There's a lot of things that appear on Reddit that are true, but there are just as many things that appear on Reddit that are not true, that are full of shit and garbage and nonsensical and lies. Just because things do appear that are true doesn't mean that everything is true. There's so much, it's so easy. I can create an account right now on Reddit and post something, some Halloween Kills shit that would fool you completely, 100%. 100%. I could make some fake account, write a bunch of mumbo jumbo, make it sound really real, really serious, like get a load of fucking this. And it would take off like that, and it sounds plausible. It sounds like it'd be totally plausible, and it's like you gotta, look at the sources of things. That doesn't mean that what you see or hear on Reddit or Billy Bob's Movie Blog isn't true, but we're talking about probability, right? And we have to understand that if somebody who cannot identify yourself, or you say, I got a source who was a source who was a source who was a source, or it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day, and I'm very careful to do that. I mean, I have certain sources that will often reach out to me, and working in the industry, there's certain people I know that I can reach out to and just say, hey, have you heard anything? But you'll notice that once in a blue moon, I'll say somebody told me, something, because I actually get people telling me shit all the time that I don't tell you guys because I can't verify it. and it's not that I don't trust the person, but they're like, hey, you know what? I heard this. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. And I actually trust that they probably did hear that, but I don't jump on my channel and start spewing it because they're not even 100% sure. Do you know what I mean? So I like to be, because I feel that my credibility is on the line and I want to be sure of things. Like when somebody reached out to me and said that, this is a year and a bit ago, that Halloween 2018 is definitely getting a sequel coming fall 2020. Now, some people might be able to say, well, duh, but this person, who will remain nameless, was at an event where Universal, and I know this for a fact, he was at an event where Universal announced this privately to a select number of people, and he told me that. And he said, you can make that announcement. And I tried to be inconspicuous with it. Like I tried to be sort of code-like, and really I should have just come out and said it. But I didn't name any names, but I was so sure because I know the event he was at, and blah, blah, blah. And I should have just not said his name, but I should have just been less inconspicuous. I should have been more conspicuous because 2 days later, Collider broke the story, and it was kind of like, oh damn, because I kind of got to it first, you know what I mean? But I was trying to be code-like and trying to kind of nudge, wink, wink, when I should have just said it. But anyway, the point I'm making is, to answer your question, I understand that there have been people talking about the JJ cut, the JJ cut. People close to JJ have said there is no such cut. Now, that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth, but people close to him have said that there is no such cut. So I just want to say that let's not pretend that it's fact, because it's not fact. We don't know whether it's true or not. And it's okay to say we don't know. Maybe there was a cut that was, that JJ had that they didn't approve. But let's not, but I've also heard that people saying that there was a Lucas cut. There was not a fucking Lucas cut, you dumb turd. There wasn't a Lucas cut, a Kennedy cut, an Iger cut, a JJ cut, a Disney cut, a Bob Sacamano cut. There wasn't. That's not how it works. Anyway. Could there have been a cut that JJ preferred and tweaks were done to remove certain things that he wanted in there? Possibly. But anyway, I'm not coming down on you. I just, I see these things, I see people stated as fact, and I think it's important that we say, hey, what do you think if there was one, right? Like, hey, if there was a JJ cut, what do you think? Like, that's the best way to do it, to word it and express it, because you don't want to say that it's fact, because it isn't fact. We have no idea. We literally have no idea. So anyway, what do I think? Would I think it would ever be released if there was one? No, because that is the movie. The movie they released theatrically was the movie they wanted to present, and that's it. That's it. So no, I don't think we will. And Disney doesn't do director's cuts very often. That is what a Snyder cut or a JJ cut or a whatever cut would be, is a director's cut essentially. And they don't usually, I don't think, has there ever been a director's cut for their big tentpole projects, Marvel films and Star Wars, and I don't think there's been director's cuts for those movies. So anyway, I don't think they would ever release one. So yeah, guys, it's a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I'm not coming down on you. I still love you. Still think you're awesome. Okay, we're like this, but just try to say, hey, what do you think if there was one? Like, word it that way, because we don't know, and you don't want to see. That's how rumors are started, by people choosing the way they type online and the way they present things. They will type things and ask things like as if things are fact, and then it gets picked up and spread, and then before you know it, people think that there is a JJ cut that was suppressed, and it's like, no, there maybe, but we don't know, and the official sources have said there hasn't, and there isn't one. So that's what we have to go on for right now. Anyway, you can see it's a little like, it's like, guys. Anyway, let's see here. Good question, though. It's a good question. Let's see here. Mason James says, Dave, what was your thought on The Force Awakens recycling the same storyline as A New Hope? Really a Death Star scenario and hiding plans in a droid. J.J. Abrams gave more effort towards Star Trek. Well, I respectfully disagree. I think that there are parallels in The Force Awakens, but that's what they are. They're parallels. There are certain universal themes that they apply to The Force Awakens that are familiar. But it is not, in the pure sense of the definition of the words, it is not a carbon copy of A New Hope. It's not about a farm boy who goes off into space and meets an old, wise Jedi Knight and a Han Solo and, this kind of stuff. And I know what you're thinking. Well, they met Han Solo. No, but just hear me out. It's literally not a copy and paste. It's not a remake of A New Hope. If it was a remake of A New Hope, it would be A New Hope modernized. And what I mean by that is it would be about a farm boy. There would be Darth Vader. There would be Chewie and Princess Leia, who was caught in the old wise man in the cantina of the. What they did was they took parallels, themes that were very popular in the original trilogy, and they modernized those themes. So you look at certain things and you're like, this kind of feels familiar. And that was a very calculated, creative choice. But the story is very different. The story doesn't play out the same way. Now, I do agree that the Death Star, like Star Killer Base, I think was probably its weakest point of the movie. That is not necessarily something I would have done, but I really liked the character of Kylo Ren. I thought he was really interesting. And I thought to be able to have somebody who was conflicted like that was great. And then to see his arc, he has a little bit of a mini arc in that movie because, again, I go back to the death of Han Solo. That wasn't done because Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to die, and Harrison Ford never wanted Han Solo to die in Return of the Jedi because he didn't like the character. He wanted the character to die in Return of the Jedi because he felt that out of everybody, he was the most expendable character, and it would give weight and bottom, raise the stakes of the film and the movie that sort of his service, what he's done has been completed. And oh my God, how shocking would that be that Han Solo suddenly pass. You're not going to kill Luke, you're not going to kill Leia, but you could kill Han. That's why he felt that it would bring some bottom and some gravitas and some weight to the story. And of course, Lucas didn't want that. And then there was an opportunity to do that here in The Force Awakens. But that scene with him and Kylo Ren is not just Han Solo dying, it's Kylo Ren fulfilling a little bit of the mini arc that he has. He wants to be the big baddie. He's not respected like Vader was, okay? He's not. I mean, you can see it in Hux. You can see it in, the trooper. He has these mini temper tantrums and shit like that. He's very powerful. Very powerful. Maybe even too powerful for his own good. Snoke knows this, or Palpatine now, right? But you know what I mean, right? And, and that arc that he had, he knew that in order to be one step closer to his ultimate goal, which was becoming like his grandfather, Darth Vader, he knew he had to make almost somewhat the ultimate sacrifice, which is not really true because the ultimate sacrifice is, sacrificing yourself. But in the sense of when Snoke said, even you, Master of the Knights of Ren, have never faced such a test. Or maybe he said, even you have never faced such a test, the Master of the Knights of Ren. Anyway, he's implying that you have to go kill your father. You have to go murder your father. Oh yeah? You think you're a fucking bad guy? Yeah, you think you're the big bad guy? Ooh, Kylo Ren? Go murder your fucking father, you piece of shit, and let's see what you got. Let's see if you got balls now. Let's see if you got balls to murder your fucking father. And what does he do? He goes out there and he does it. But he does it. There's a bit of hesitation there. But then when that light turns red, right? When the Star Killer Base sucks the light from the sun and everything falls dark and there's just this red sort of glow that's very, symbolic. And Kylo Ren says, actually, I think it's a bit before that. He says, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. He's not saying, I know I have to come with you, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. He's saying, I know I need to murder your fucking ass, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Now, Han doesn't think he's thinking that or means that, right? But that's why in The Rise of Skywalker, he says it again, because this time it actually means that. This time he means, I know what I have the strength to do. But I don't know if I have or I know what I need to do, but I don't have the strength to do it. He really does mean, I want to come with you now. He didn't in The Force Awakens. That's that full circle arc, right? So that's why that scene there with Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens was really cool, because you think he means one thing, but he really means another, and then he murders his father, and it's like, holy shit, he did it. Like, what the fuck is this going to be, right? And then The Last Jedi fucked it all up. But anyway, that's an example of one of the reasons why I like The Force Awakens. I don't think it's I still prefer the original three, But I think The Force Awakens was what it needed to be to get things back on track. Bob, I understand why it was like that. Star Wars was dead. It was dead. I'm old enough to remember this, folks. It was dead. Nobody liked the prequels. Sure, people are going back and looking at the prequels now going, well, after The Last Jedi, these prequels aren't so bad. But listen, if social media was around in 2000, in 99, 2002, and 2005, I know MySpace was there, but I'm talking about like it is now. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter, no Instagram. If it was around then, I know Facebook came out in like February 04, but I'm talking about the way it is now. There was none of that. People loathed the prequels. They ran George Lucas into retirement, for fuck's sakes, okay? Star Wars was dead. They made a creative choice to bring something familiar to get you back on track, to get old fans back on track, tap into the nostalgia, right? And sort of reset themselves and kind of go back to what we know and love. And I understand that. They couldn't do something completely different out of the gate because it was too high of a risk. It was way too high of a risk. They just spent $4.2 billion on the franchise. They couldn't do that. So they needed to tap into the nostalgia and into people's heartstrings and get people back on board, which they did. Became one of the highest grossing movies in motion picture history and the highest grossing film domestic in motion picture history, and it still is today. Even Endgame did not pass it. I'm talking about domestic now. So I get it. I understand that. So when I look at The Force Awakens, yes, there's parallels. Absolutely. 100%. But I don't see it as a carbon copy. It's a literal beat for beat remake, as people claim to be. Or claim it to be. Anyway, that's me. Hopefully that was long-winded, but man, I get fired up. I get fired up. What's going on here? Okay, Nick Kunda sends a super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. Really appreciate it. Says, have you seen Rise of Skywalker since seeing it in the theater with your friend Bruce? Have your thoughts changed on the movie? Well, I saw it 3 times in the theater, actually. So I haven't, now I know it just came out on Blu-ray a couple of days ago. I have not seen it again since, I guess the end of December, I guess. So I haven't seen it in about three months or so. So my thoughts and feelings have not changed. I thought it was what it only could have been because of the fuck up in the second act. And I enjoyed it. Should it have been the end game of all end games? Yes. Should it have been one of the most incredible movies? Yes, I agree, but it was never going to be. And that's not the fault of JJ. The Nuthouse sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. Says, Dave, do you have any memories from when The Phantom Menace or the whole Star Wars prequels trilogy was being released? Yes. In 1999, I was in college, and I do remember when The Phantom Menace came out. I saw it in the theater, and I was extremely disappointed. And then I saw Attack of the Clones, and I was extremely disappointed, even more so, I think. And then I saw Revenge of the Sith in 2005 with my mom and my buddy Joe. I don't know if Joe's watching, but Joe, we saw it with you. And I remember liking it more, but still being like, okay. But I mean, I think most people like Revenge of the Sith the best because I think it is the best out of the prequels, but that's a very still low bar in my opinion. It's not like it's, it's really not, I think that that's the moment when Darth Vader becomes Darth Vader. That's the moment we've all been waiting for. You probably could have told Anakin's story in one movie or maybe one 3-hour film, or something like that. I mean, it just, I don't know. Yes, I do remember it. And the thing I remember the most is that people loathed them. So all this hate, people are finding, they're sort of, going back and finding renewed love for the prequels because of The Last Jedi, and I want to call you fucking hypocritic sons of bitches. You fucking hated the Now, not everybody, okay? If you were a young boy or girl who grew up with the prequels, you may have really liked them. I understand that they're, not everybody. But if you're old enough like me, almost 41 years old, you remember that time very well. And everybody hated them. God, if this fucking thing existed, if YouTube existed in 99, 2002, and 2005, the same toxicity would exist 100% over the prequels, maybe even more so. So, let's not pretend that, Star Wars was not essentially dead before The Force Awakens came out, because it was. Great questions, guys. Great questions. Let's grab a non-super chat one here. Beep, 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 beep. Let me see here. What's going on here? Real Slasher says, yeah, cherry picking information is annoying. I agree 100%. Who are you talking to? Because I agree with that for sure. Let me see. Chrissy Hamilton says, at Dave McRae, do you think people will go back to going to the theater and buying physical discs and buying physical discs? I think so. I mean, look, we have to live our lives. We cannot live our lives in fear. We have to be mindful. We have to be cautious. We have to be, we have to understand that what is going on right now is serious, and we have to be mindful, but we cannot be like this in our homes. And it's one of the reasons, like, I made a post a couple of weeks ago that didn't go over well with some people on Facebook. And I removed it because I think some people were, not everybody, but there were a few people that I think were misinterpreting what I was trying to say. And, I thought, I don't want to deal with this. So I removed it. But the crux of my post was, it's important that, we pay attention to the media and we pay attention to the news, and the 24-hour news cycle is good. It has some good things in there, especially in times like this, but you cannot get, obsessed with it, because it's easy to get obsessed with it and it creates fear, because the job of the 24-hour news cycle is to create news, not just cover news. And what I mean by that is that, like, years ago, you had the 6 o'clock news, 11 o'clock news, and that was it in the newspaper the next day. And that was it. And since the late 80s, early 90s, when the 24-hour news cycle really came into be, and it's, been this way, especially now for 25 years, is that, they have, because it's 24 hours, they have to talk. They have to fill airtime. They have to fill airtime for their sponsors. And, they have to, they have to talk about something. So it's always there. It's not like an hour and then it cuts to, Three's Company, and it goes off to, the Cosby Show. No, it's all the time. So if breaking news happens, let's say at 9 o'clock in the morning, that breaking news will run until something else breaks. So the news that has broken could happen at 9 a.m., but if you tune in at 4 p.m., it will still say breaking news, even though it was like 8 hours earlier. And that's because they're recycling it. Just watch CNN or Fox for a couple hours. They have, on comes Anderson Cooper, and what does he do? He talks about the same shit that the previous person was talking about, but just from his perspective now. And then he's done. And then who comes on after him? Well, then it's, I don't know, Chris Como. He comes on, then he talks about the same shit, and then Don Lemon comes on and he talks about that. It's just always there. And it's good, but it's bad at the same time, because sometimes it's just the same, and it's getting into your psyche, especially if you're watching it all the time, right? So the crux of my post was, let's not let the 24-hour news cycle, affect us and cause unnecessary fear. We must be informed. We must be informed based on facts and evidence, so we can make informed decisions to help protect ourselves and our family. But if you didn't, some people, if you wouldn't, listen, and the American media, especially the American media, is very cinematic. Okay, coronavirus next on CNN. It's very you don't get that up here. You get it a bit, but not like down there. Let's go to John. John, what's going on down there? Well, I think it's a husband. Like, it's very movie-like. Like, the American media is very movie-like, very cinematic. So, you watch it and it's like you're watching, like, you think the world was falling apart because Barack Obama, he stubbed his toe or something. And tonight, Barack Obama stubbed his toe. Now let's go down to John, who's talking about, thank you, Bill. Yes, the President, Obama, stubbed his toe at 9 o'clock a.m. this morning, and we're trying to figure hang on. Yes, we're getting an update. Bill, do you know what's going on down there?
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, well, we found out that he was walking around the Oval Office, and he stubbed his toe on the side of the desk, but we're not quite sure how that's going to affect his walking or his toes at this point in time. Anderson?
Thank you very much. Now let's go to a toe expert who is going to be talking about what it's like to stub your toe. Dr. Schnung Schning Schnaga is on here. Dr. Schnung Schning Schnaga, we understand that you are a toe expert. This is what it's like. And it's and if you're, obviously I'm being satirical to make a point, but if you're watching this, it's very cinematic, so I just think that we should be diligent, tune into the news, maybe at certain points, throughout the day to get some updates, but don't stop living your life. Don't, wash your hands, maybe wear a mask, if you have to go somewhere or whatever, or wash your hands when you come back from, the store and things like that. But don't let it control your life. Don't let this, it's not that it's not serious, but we still have to live our lives. So I think to answer I know that was a really long thing here, but you know me, I like to chat. So I think that it will affect some people, and I think others it won't. I think there will be a grace period where we'll see sort of a slow burn, but eventually, it will get back to normal. It will. It'll get back to normal. The days will turn into weeks, and the weeks will turn into months, and we will get back to normal. So yes, I do think people will still buy physical discs unless they totally, outright get rid of them. Reese Wilson sends a super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, hey, Dave, what would you think about the Shape being killed halfway through Halloween Ends and then the final hour or so dealing with the psychological after effects of the survivors? All in execution. I like your cerebral approach to that. All in execution. I'd be open to listening to ideas. I like that. Let's see here. Lawrence XRP says, hey, Dave, love the show. Stay safe. Stay safe to you too, man. Thanks for saying that. Really appreciate it. Troy Stacha says, I love when you drag, I love it when you drag morons, Dave. Drag morons? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but okay. Thanks very much. Kirk Rakestraw says, hey, Dave, been a long time. How are you? Yeah, Kirk, it has. I haven't seen your name in here in quite some time. Good to see you. Let's see. Dave speaks the truth. I see people are laughing at my 24-hour news cycle, but it's true. It's true. And it's like that up here too. Listen, the Canadian media may not be as cinematic as the American media. We're more like the British media, in terms of very sort of a little more nuanced and maybe, not quite as cinematic. But it's true. Like whenever I turn into CNN or Fox or something, and it's like, and let's go down to the such and such. Thank you, Bill. Yes, we're standing here in front of the such and such where he stubbed his toe, and they could talk about that for hours. And if you're really afraid of stubbing your toe, my God, Anyways, hopefully you see the point I'm trying to make through the satirical example. I'm not saying that stubbing your toe is as serious as the coronavirus. Let's not put words into my mouth, folks. Let's see here. A couple super chats came in. Want to make sure I don't miss them. Thank you so much, guys, again, for supporting the channel like that. Really appreciate it. Jack Ellis says, I don't think Michael should have been caught at the end of H78 in the H18 timeline. Interesting. Okay. I think it would have H78. I think it would H78 and I think it would have been scarier essentially if H78 had ended that way, giving Laurie motive to be scared. Interesting. I like the way you're thinking. I totally would have been open to that. I think having just Michael disappear into the ether would have been really interesting. Now, of course, the problem that the writers face and the studios may want is they may want an explanation. They may feel that the ambiguous nature of he just suddenly shows up 40 years later, fans might have a problem with that. Now, I don't have a problem with that as long as there is something that is created that alludes to, again, it's a tricky thing because he is a human being with a slight supernatural edge. So you have to understand that if he disappeared for 40 years, how was he shitting? Where was he peeing? Where was he sleeping? How was he eating? Did he have a job at a supermarket for 40 years? You have to, now you can say at the same time, well, you don't have to justify that because it's unknown. True, but it's a very long extended time. If it was just 6 months or a year, you might be able to play that card of, we don't know. But 40 years is a really long time. So I can understand why they may not wanted to have gone down that road just to avoid any potential backlash because of that. My worry is that in in Halloween Kills, I don't want to see how he was caught. Look, it's alluded to the fact, obviously he was caught down some, alley or on somebody's lawn or something great, but I don't need to see that. Now, but again, it's all in execution. But I get what you're saying, Jack. I do. I get what you're saying. And again, I would be open to hearing ideas. Like if I was, Jason Blum, I'd be like, okay, talk to me. Let's flesh this out and see what we have here. So I get it. I get what you're saying, man. And you know me, I like the total enigma and shit. So I get it. Thunderknock Studio says, Dave, I love the thumbnail used in the video. I thought you would, buddy. I thought you would. Let's see here. Super chat comes in from TMB. Thank you, buddy. Says, great video yesterday, Dave. Thanks. Appreciate it. Do you have any vlogs or spoofs from the 90s from you and Bruce? Would you ever post them? Also, why did JJ include the final order with Palpatine? He had the first order. Okay, well, the first part of the question is, Bruce and I have a lot of stuff from the 90s, dating all the way back to 1993. There's a lot of like just home movie talk shows we did, us being silly. There's amateur home movies we did. We did our little trilogy based on Michael Myers, but it's not Michael Myers. We took the subtitle of the original Halloween, which is The Night He Came Home, and we made a series called The Night He Came, The Night He Came Back, and The Night It Came to an End. And I put like a sheet on my face with like it's clearly a cheap knockoff version, but that was fun. And we did a movie called Secret Agents. We did a movie called They're Coming, which was like an alien invasion movie. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff from the 90s that we have, but none of it is digitized. It's because it's all on VHS and high 8mm tapes. So we'd have to digitize them, but we do have them. We do have them. And then of course, also, why did JJ include the final order with Palpatine? He had the first order. Well, I think it's because the first order, I think it was just an extension of that. I think, the first order was what he had created, through Snoke, and sort of while Palpatine, I guess, was trying to figure out how to, while he was in the unknown regions of, Exegol and trying to build a fleet. He needed something. It was the first order. And then I think once everything was complete, it's like stages, right? And then so now he's ready to make a comeback, right? That's one thing that people too don't forget about the rise of Skywalker, is that Palpatine wasn't back. I mean, look, it's a matter of semantics at the end of the day, but he wasn't back. He was on the verge of coming back. He was ready to come back. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't like back yet. It was like, oh my God, he's about to come back. And it was his own granddaughter that finally put a stop to it. Rey's not the chosen one. She was never the chosen one. It was never alluded to the fact that she was the chosen one. Because Palpatine was not back. He was about to come back. He was like ready to pounce, you know what I mean? And it was like, whoa, hang on a sec. No. And it took his own flesh and blood to actually put, to keep the nail in the coffin, so to speak. So I thought that was actually kind of a cool way to do it. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. Really, really appreciate it. Super chat from Wallace Wicks just sends in a super chat, $2 supporting the channel. Thank you very much, Wallace Wicks. I like that. That sounds like a good movie or a good title for a movie. Wallace Wicks. Chris Baber sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate that. Says, I always wondered why some Jedi disappear when they die and some don't. Thoughts? Not as knowledgeable on Star Wars, but I figured I would ask. I'm not as knowledgeable on Star Wars either, Chris. I don't know that answer. I mean, maybe it was explained in some EU book that I've never read. I don't know. Who hasn't disappeared? I'm not sure. I guess Qui-Gon didn't, right? Did he burn? Was Qui-Gon burn? I can't remember. I don't know. That's a good question. No idea. You'd have to ask some hardcore sweaty nerd that is, balls deep into that stuff. It's a good question though, man. And thank you for your support, Chris. Always appreciate you, buddy. Let's see here. Movie Chat and More says, hey Dave, Hitchcock or Spielberg as in the better filmmaker? Well, I think I would say that, who's the better filmmaker? Well, I think Spielberg is. I think Spielberg is the better filmmaker across genres. We didn't see Hitchcock but it was a different time. I mean, if Hitchcock had been coming up at the same time, that would have been a better assessment. Hitchcock was coming up in the 30s, the 40s. I mean, again, I said this last week on the show, but we often forget that even though he is probably most famous for Psycho, he was well into his career. I mean, that would be like Spielberg being most famous for War of the Worlds. It's like he'd been making movies for 30 years before that. I mean, Hitchcock had been making movies in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. Psycho was like, his 40-something movie or 30. He had been making movies for a long time. So, Psycho was sort of at the tail end of his career, really. I mean, again, he made films into the 70s, but, it's hard to say because the motion picture industry changed, and Hitchcock is very, he was spent most of his time in the drama, thriller, suspense genre. That's what he's known for, right? He's the master of suspense, right? Or the master of horror. Spielberg has crossed genres. He's done drama and biopic and adventure and action and science fiction. And I mean, he hasn't dabbled in horror per se, or outright horror. But I would say Spielberg is probably, will be, because he changed cinema. It's hard to say who would be, it's hard to compare them as equals because they're different eras. But I will say that Spielberg changed the way movies were made, and Lucas did as well. But Spielberg changed the entertainment going experience. He created the blockbuster. He created the adventure serial. He changed the way we experienced movies and entertainment, because it's not just the movies he directed that we have to thank him for. It's the movies that he helped bring to the screen through producing and facilitating, like the Back to the Future trilogy, like Poltergeist, like The Goonies, like, oh my God. I mean, just look at the films, not the films he's producing in the last 15 years. That's just him sticking his fucking name on it and answering a couple of fucking questions. I'm talking about through the 70s and through the 80s especially, and the early 90s as well. He changed cinema. So there's a reason why he's arguably the greatest filmmaker of all time, not just director, but filmmaker, tackling various roles like producing and facilitating and executive producing and directing. And, he's a giant. So it's hard to, in terms of directing, it's hard to, because they're two different eras, you know what I mean? Very, very, very different, but great question though. Great question. Okay. Let me get a couple of the super chats here that came in. I think maybe I got them all. Good. I'm not too far behind. I don't think I am. Let me go back. No, we're doing good. Awesome. Okay. So super chat comes in from, Taproot Scoot. I love it. Taproot Scoot. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. Says, love your stuff. Not super stoked in HK flashback. Yeah. You know what? There's a lot of people that aren't stoked about it, man. There's a lot of people that are, thinking to themselves, for me, it's all an execution. I don't, my only worry is when you start to play in the H7-8 timeline, you run the risk, and I'm not saying that they haven't done it and they haven't achieved it successfully, but you do run the risk of, you run the risk of creating things that when you go back and watch the H7-8 film, at the end of the day, don't make sense. And you end up changing how we look at a previous movie. And for me, the original Halloween, because it was always supposed to be a one-off, and you can still watch it in that way, going back and recreating scenes that never existed for the sake of having your new movie make sense often feels chintzy, cheap, and lame. However, I am always open to seeing what they do, because at the end of the day, it can often be in the execution, right? It's in the details. And I would like to believe that these filmmakers have the integrity and the respect for a giant in the genre, which is arguably one of the greatest classic horror films ever made, that they know that if they are going to create a scene that otherwise does not exist and was never supposed to exist, that they would be very careful how they execute that. You do not want to show too much, and you do not want to create things that are going to cause fans to go, but that doesn't, why would you don't want that. It's all, I would much rather play in the current timeline and have something fuck up there than fuck up a flashback, which may or may not be necessary. So I agree with you. I am cautiously optimistic. I want it to succeed, but this is also a filmmaker, David Gordon Green, according to what I understand, wanted to change the ending of the original Halloween. He was going to reshoot the ending of the original Halloween. For those of you that may not know this, there's a reason why Laurie's master bedroom in her house at the end of the 2018 film, where she herself gets tossed off her own balcony, there's a reason why the layout looks very similar to the Doyle house at the end of the 1978 film. It's because David Gordon Green was going to reshoot the ending. And he was going to change the ending of that movie. And it was John Carpenter, according to what I understand, that said, why are you going to do that? Don't change the ending of my movie. He was going to change it. He was essentially going to render every fucking copy of the 1978 movie you have obsolete. Because as far as I know, Michael was going to be no longer shot off the balcony or something was going to change. Why would you do that? There are millions of copies of that movie out there that you now have just said that ending no longer exists. It renders your copy of H78 completely obsolete. That doesn't make any sense. That's incompetence. Because you're telling me it's a sequel to that movie, but yet at the beginning of the sequel, you say that the ending I just saw wasn't the real ending. That doesn't make any fucking sense. And if that was allowed to be put through, that's sheer incompetence. There's no other way to look at it. So because that was an idea they had, which makes no sense to me, and again, I'm not on the team. I mean, maybe there's details that I'm not aware of, and that's fair. All right, David Gordon Green, anybody from the team, if you're watching, that's fair. Totally fair. You can call me out. Totally fair. But if that was the case, it doesn't make me think, now they're going back and doing what are they going to do that maybe might render something else obsolete? Like, wait a minute, that's not where Lonnie was. Wait a minute, that doesn't... It worries me. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I want this movie to be good. We all do. So, but yes, the flashback scene has me cautiously optimistic. I hope that it's something that you can go, okay, cool. Like you can watch the 78 film and go, okay, cool. I guess when this scene is happening, that must be going on over there. Okay, cool. No problem. No problem. And it doesn't really change anything. It just sort of like you go, okay, I get it. That's what I'm hoping for. Thank you for the support, buddy. Really appreciate that. Let's see here. The Manhammer AR-15 says, how are these days dark? How are these days dark, though? Tons of people always died. I guess you must be talking amongst each other, which I always really like to see. Another super chat comes in from... a few of them came in. The Nut House, thank you, buddy, says, saw Psycho 2 for the first time. Decent but cheesy. Well, let's not forget it's an early 80s movie. But I think it's a pretty decent follow-up to arguably one of the greatest horror movies ever created. It's to me, it's like Jaws 2 to Jaws. You know what I mean? Or Halloween 2 to Halloween. I think it's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. Reese Wilson sends a super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, hey, Dave, you and Tony should do a Two Dudes and Some Bullshit on Big Trouble in Little China. My favorite John Carpenter film personally, or perhaps The Thing. We definitely have plans to do The Thing in the very near future. Big Trouble in Little China we haven't talked about, but I will mention that to him. That might be kind of fun to do too. I like that movie. Yeah, very, Very good. Let's see here. Super chat from Wallace Wick says, have you seen Halloween Inferno 1 and 2? Thoughts? Well, for those of you that don't know, he's talking about the fan film, Halloween Inferno. I did see the first one, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was well done. I think the guys did a great job, but I haven't had a chance to check out the second one yet. I'll get around to it eventually. Let's see here. Michaela Snow says, you think Tommy Doyle kept in contact with Laurie Strode minus the 2 movies? I'm going to say no. But maybe it depends. I mean, if he's lived in Haddonfield, if he never left, which I hope is not the case. Like, I hoped somebody left. Like, are we to believe that Laurie, and I know they might say, well, they suffered so much trauma that it affected their lives and they couldn't leave. Okay. But it would be nice if somebody left, and that maybe Tommy comes back to Haddonfield because he still has relatives there, or his mom and dad are there, or I don't know. And then he gets caught up in this adventure unexpectedly. I think that would be cool. But I have a feeling that Tommy and Lindsay are probably still residents of Haddonfield even after 40 years. But, again, execution. Make me believe it. Archie Riverdale sends in a super chat. Thank you very much, Archie. Really appreciate that. And super chat comes in from Wallace Wicks again. Thank you so much, buddy. Says, Halloween Inferno Part 1 and 2 did a great job showing how Michael got caught by Hawkins and linked it nicely, both in H-18 and Kills. Please watch. I'll check it out. Again, there's a lot of things that I don't take requests. It's very important to know that when it comes to fan films, I don't take requests. And the reason it's not personal, it's because I would be watching 900 fan films a week if I had to do that. Everybody wants me to read their script. Everybody wants me to watch everything. So, but when something of prominence, something that gets, some buzz kind of goes online, I'll make sure to check it out. Let's see. Jack Ellis sends a super chat and says, favorite Halloween fan film, thinking of making one. My favorite Halloween fan film? Oh, I don't know. The Spirit of Haddonfield was really good. Halloween Night was really good. They're getting better and better now. Like, they really are. Halloween Inferno, was well done. Again, I haven't checked out the first one, but that was well done. They're getting better and better. So, it's a very saturated market, though. I will say that. Like, that's one of the reasons why I chose, because when I approached Bruce to, I said to him last summer, I said, let's do another film, but let's really do this time. Like, let's access our resources and make a real movie. And that's what we're doing with It's Me, Billy. It's going to be like the production value is going to be Never Hike Alone type, shit. Like, because we have access to the resources and people to do that. So I was like, let's do that. And he was like, so you want to do another Halloween fan film? I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. That was shit we did to kind of have fun and, play around. And I said, I don't want to do that because there's just so many people doing it that I said, let's do something that nobody's done. Like, nobody's talking about, nobody's doing. And we're Canadian, and Black Christmas is Canadian. And that movie was shot in Toronto, and we're in Toronto. I said, I saw sort of a void that could be filled, and I understand that Black Christmas is not nearly as popular as Halloween. I get that. And it may not generate nearly, the excitement that Halloween would, but there's so many people doing Halloween that I was like, let's do Black Christmas. Let's do a legit Black Christmas sequel, which it doesn't need a sequel. I'll be the first to say that ending is one of the most iconic endings in the history of horror. You don't need a sequel. But we were playing what if, right? We were like, what if? Like, what if? And we came up with this cool idea to extend the story. And if It's Me, Billy is really good and it's very well received, then we have an idea to extend it maybe a little bit further, which is really exciting. But we're going to need your help on that, right? Because we haven't launched our Indiegogo campaign yet. So we're going to need your help on that. We need your guys' support to help raise, the funds and to make that a reality. But yeah, so sorry, the question was, favorite Halloween fan film. Yeah, it's a saturated market, but those are a few of the ones that I think are really good, have really put the time and effort and passion behind it. But it's one of the reasons why I haven't revisited a serious fan film on that level in Halloween, is because I just it's very saturated and I want to do something a bit different. I was thinking about doing there's that, and I also thought about doing like a Poltergeist fan film too, and shit like that, because you don't really see that as well. But that's a little more involved. But right now it's me, Billy. So we're really excited about that, man. Let's just hopefully this COVID-19 shit can pass so we can get this fucking thing going. Let's see here. Ethan LeBlanc sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Ethan. Really appreciate it. I'm calling it. Kills will begin in 78 during the flashback. Stay sharp. Ooh. I'm going to say no. But you might be right. Austin Cheney says, Dave, Jedi disappearing is indicative of them becoming one with the Force. Oh, I know what it means. I know why they disappear. But I'm saying that the question was, why do some disappear and some don't disappear? Because according to Chris Baber, there are some that do and some that don't. So, I mean, definitely that is why they do, for sure. Yeah, no, 100%. Jason Loppers says, oh my God, Dave, I had a great idea. Ooh, I love great ideas. What if they made a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie with the Mr. Sandman song? It would work perfectly there than compared to Halloween. Bring me a dream. It's true. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it certainly definitely works well in the Elm Street playground. I don't know if they would now because it's so associated and so branded with the original Halloween series. But I mean, there's always room for change. Let's see here. Super chat comes in from Nick Kunda. Thank you very much, Nick. Really appreciate you supporting the channel on that level, man. Hey, Dave, really random question. I like random questions too. I've always had an idea of Halloween taking place during the 1800s or 1700s. Interesting. And seeing how they handle the shape without modern police or tech. Thoughts? That's interesting. I like that idea. That's really cool. Kind of going back and creating a Halloween story. It's not a bad idea. That's kind of cool. Maybe like back to Jack the Ripper days. When was Jack the Ripper? Was that the 1800s? What years were Jack the Ripper? I think it was the 1800s, I think, or very early 1900s or something. I don't think it was 1700s. That may be a little too far back, but that's a cool idea. I like that idea. That's kind of cool. That's a fun, ooh, that might be interesting. Yeah, I like that. That's kind of fun. That's really cool. Let's see here. Edwin A. Sordo says, what's good, Dave? What's good, pussycat? Whoa. Neil Diamond. Hey, what are your 3 favorite planets from the Star Wars films and why? Oh, well, I'm an original trilogy guy, so I got to go, Hoth, Endor, and Tatooine? I don't, again, I'm a Halloween fan, but I'm not one of those sweaty, hardcore, Halloween fans that know that have read every book, every comic, know all the planets like, A-462, and it's like, what the fuck? I've never even heard of that planet. So I couldn't even tell you all the planets from the prequels. I just don't care. Coruscant, I guess, but that's just because, it's kind of out there in pop culture. I'm an OG guy, so I'm going to do, those 3 from the sequel trilogy. Jakku. There's always room for Jakku. I like Jakku, although it's sort of just Tatooine, really, at the end of the day, in terms of the terrain. But I love that shot, though, with the speeder, with Rey's speeder going by, and you see, the Star Destroyer embedded into the center. The scale, fucking amazing. An amazing shot. Yeah, I'll say that. Mustafar. Oh, yes, Mustafar. Darth Vader's home planet. That's a cool planet for sure. Definitely. Let's see. Gary Rangel says, Dave, can you only watch A Nightmare 1, 2, 3, 4, A New Nightmare? The others are just watered down movies. Well, if I was to watch any Elm Street movies, I would generally just watch the first 2. Those are the movies that I would generally my go-to. If I go beyond that, it's 3, absolutely. Probably the first 3. 4, I don't really watch. It's when Freddy really started to become MTV Freddy. And it was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. And then 5, I just think is garbage. And 6 is a fucking shit show. It's a fucking shit show. And then New Nightmare was very different. It was a very meta, cerebral, out of the box sort of. It's like not even. It's hard to compare New Nightmare with the rest of the series because New Nightmare is asking its audience to now pretend that those movies were really movies. Like even the characters in the movies, they didn't really die. Even the characters in the movies were pretending to be scared. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's I understand why it's an acquired taste, or at least the first movie, I should say. It's not really talking about the series. It's more talking about the first movie. But it's asking its audience that the first movie is, it was a game and a joke and they were just pretending and nobody was really scared. And it's an acquired taste. And it was ahead of its time, for sure. It was sort of the catalyst that probably got Craven excited about Scream because although Scream isn't the same kind of thing. It's a very sort of spoofish, meta kind of, film. Not that New Nightmare is not that kind of, thing. But anyway, I think you know what I'm trying to say. So I would say that my go-tos are certainly the first three and New Nightmare. 4, maybe on occasion, but not really. And 5, I just don't like. And 6, I don't like at all. There's fucking garbage films as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. Let me go back, make sure I've got the super chat. I do. Good. That's what I like to see. Not missing those super chats. Where am I here? There we are. There we go. Let me see. Jose Roman says, hey, Dave, would you be okay with both Halloween movies getting pushed back to 2021 because of current events? Would I be okay with it? Well, sure, I'd be okay with it. But I don't have a dog in the race financially. So, the studios it would be a mistake to release them in the same month because they would be eating each other's box office and you don't want to do that. I think what's more likely is that if if Halloween Kills, were to get pushed, I think it's more likely that you would see it get pushed to March of 2021, and then you still have Ends being released in like October 20. You're not going to get Halloween, at least I don't imagine. I do not see a scenario where this is beneficial to them financially. You know what I mean? I mean, regardless of how cool it would be and how, whoa, that's kind of neat. I mean, this is a business. And because the first installment of this little new trilogy made $250 million at the worldwide box office, they're not going to want to release both these films 2 weeks apart from each other. They're going to start eating each other's box office receipts. And it's not good business. At least I don't see it being good business. So it's more likely to have them release it months apart, 6 months apart, 8 months apart. That's possible. But I still think we are far enough away that the fall movie release dates are still okay. If we get into July and this thing is still like getting worse and worse and we're still social distancing and staying inside, and then you might see those movies start getting pushed. Because right now we're in April and we're starting to see summer movies get pushed. Well, let's not forget too that, movies need a certain amount of time to market their films as well. They need to have the marketing window. So, that's why you're seeing movies now that are coming out in June and July getting pushed to December or the fall because, or even next year, because they need that time to market these movies. So, if we get to July and August and things are not, you might see it push because they need to market it. You know what I mean? So that's my answer to that question. Let me see. Hey, let's change cameras. We're like an hour in, but why not? Let's change views. Oh, it's another view. It's another view.
Trick or treat, motherfucker!
I love it.
Fuck you, man. Come on.
That's how I feel every morning. Now, Duke Fleet says, hey, Dave, thoughts on Blade Runner? Love it. listen, Blade Runner was not a financial success when it came out in 1982, I believe. But, and when I first watched it as a boy, I didn't like it because it's very, it's a very deep layered movie. And there's a lot of themes in that movie that if you're a kid or a teenager that you're not really going to maybe understand or like or appreciate. But as I've grown to be an adult, I've appreciated that movie much more and the different symbolism and layers that are in that movie. And so, yeah, I'm not going to say I love the movie. I still think it's a Harrison Ford film and it's a sci-fi film that it's not usually in my Rolodex, but it's a movie that I definitely like more than I did when I was 12, let's say, and that I appreciate more now than I ever did. For sure. Wallace Wicks sends in a super chat. Love that name, Wallace. Love that name, Wallace Wicks. Sends a super chat, says, I love the series and I love this channel. Well, we love you too, Wallace. I'm not getting paid to say this, but Dave and everyone check out Halloween Inferno 2 to see a great flashback scene showing Hawkins captured as the Shape. Well, there you go. He's not getting paid to say it, folks, but everybody go and tune in to Halloween Inferno 2. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, hey, Dave, favorite Star Wars character? Do you think Luke ever sort of became the chosen one in a sense as he enabled Vader to return to the light? Well, it depends on what your definition of the chosen one is, right? My favorite Star Wars character is Han Solo because Harrison Ford's my favorite actor. So that goes without saying. I love Han Solo because I love Harrison Ford. But outside of that, because maybe that's a little kind of, it's kind of cheating a little bit. Outside of that is Darth Vader, hands down. I've grown to like the Emperor a lot more, actually, over the years, which is really cool. But yeah, I always love the bad guys. It's always fun to love a bad guy. It's always fun to play a bad guy as well. So much more fun than playing a hero. And do I think Luke is the chosen one? For all intents and purposes, I guess. If you think about it, for all intents and purposes, I guess he's the chosen one, or he becomes sort of a symbolic chosen one. He wasn't the chosen one in the literal sense because that was Anakin, and Anakin did bring balance to the Force. I know there are a lot of people that think that the rise of Skywalker ruins that. I can understand why you would think that. And there are arguments to be made. But I think there are just as strong of arguments to be made against it as well. Because no one is saying that Rey is the chosen one, right? Palpatine, from a certain point of view, he's not back. He's on the verge of coming back. We know through the novel, even though I fucking hate these things winding up in comics and novels, and I'm the first one to say that I think they should be in the movie, but we know that Palpatine didn't really survive the fall. I mean, he did die for all intents and purposes, but because he had been preparing for this moment, which is easy to believe because it's not JJ that created the idea of Palpatine surviving. That's Lucas. George Lucas created Revenge of the Sith. George Lucas wrote Revenge of the Sith. George Lucas wrote the opera scene in Revenge of the Sith. George Lucas created the idea about this guy called Darth Plagueis, the Wise, and how he learned how to cheat death. George Lucas created the idea, or suggested the idea that Palpatine, may have figured that out, right? Ooh, that's kind of, and JJ just capitalized on it. He saw an opportunity and capitalized on it. Now, I understand that Lucas has said that, no, at the end of Return of the Jedi, he's dead. He really is dead. He's not coming back. I get it. But you were the one that created that window, man. You were the one that left it open a crack. I mean, it's kind of like, what? Yeah. Now, again, I don't know if there was something in some novel that I don't know about or something, but Anakin was the chosen one. He still saved his son's life. He saved his son's life and brought balance to the galaxy. He still did that. He still accomplished that, albeit, maybe not for a long time, but he did it. And the most important thing he did out of anything was to save his son's life. And Luke was able to, if Luke wasn't there, right? If Vader wasn't there, Luke would have died. If Luke wasn't there, the Emperor and the Empire would have won. So it's not completely obsolete because Rey isn't the chosen one. Rey's not, nobody's saying she's the chosen one. People are just assuming that because they think that every hero has to be the chosen. No, Rey's not the chosen. Well, she was a Palpatine. and she was able to stop it before it started again. That's how you have to kind of look at it. There's the First Order, and they're out there, yes, but they're being controlled by this Palpatine who's gaining, steam, and he's coming back. It's insidious. He's moving. And it was a Palpatine that was like, whoa, hang on a fucking second here. I'm not letting you, essentially destroy all the hard work that these guys, no, we're going to put a fucking stop to this now. And she did. And that's the way I kind of look at it. It doesn't really render anything obsolete to me because the work was still done. The success was still achieved. Vader was still defeated. The Emperor was still defeated. The Empire was essentially, delegated to just fractions of shit that just kind of took off. And there was peace for a certain period of time. And Luke survived. And, and then, oh, wait a minute, but there was something they didn't count on. Oh my God. And then it took it took a Palpatine to kind of put the final nail in the coffin. I think it's cool. But that's just me. That is just me, folks. I am not a sweaty, hardcore Star Wars fan who is, but Dave, in Book 5, Section 3, Paragraph 2. Granted, I am not one of those people. But anyway. Super chat from Ethan the Blog says, if you could only own one, which would it be? Original screen used Myers mask, original screen used Vader helmet. Original screen used Vader helmet, hands down. Why? Because it would probably be in better condition. The original screen used Myers mask is in pretty poor condition. Looks really cool, but pretty poor condition. Also, an original used Vader helmet would probably be worth more. And in better condition. So I would be too afraid to have a original screen used Myers mask because of the latex crumbling, and I'd be like, oh my God. I'd be so afraid that I would destroy it. So definitely Vader helmet for those reasons. Really cool question. I like that. Frank Riker sends in a super chat. Thank you so much. Frank says, Dave got done washing hands with DDD. I love it. Frank got done washing hands with David Gordon Green, and he told me that Halloween ends with us zooming on Michael's dead body, and then a hand comes onto his forehead before fading out to a voice. I love it. This is Child's Play, right? I think I'm right on that. Right, yeah. Do Dambala. I love it, dude. I love it. You fucking make me laugh, Frank. I love it. Oh, man. Travis Gilliam says, hey, Dave, what's the best microphone to use when filming? When filming what? You mean like YouTube videos, or do you mean like major motion pictures? Do you mean like, yeah, just at me and let me know sort of more specifically what you're talking about, and I'll do my best to answer. I'll give you the best answer that I can, and if I can't answer it, I will try to point you in the right direction. The Film Addict says, hey Dave, which Jim Carrey movie do you think is underrated? For me, Man on the Moon is underrated. Underrated Jim Carrey movie. I would say an underrated Jim Carrey movie would be, I don't know. I'd have to watch it again, but maybe the number 23. Is it the number 23? Is it 23? I think I'm right on that. I remember liking that movie when it came out, but a lot of people kind of go meh to it. I'd have to watch it. To be fair, though, I'd have to watch it again. Yeah, maybe that movie. I love Bruce Almighty. I think it's one of the best ones he's ever done, but I don't think that's underrated, though. 23 it is. Okay, yeah. I don't think that's underrated, though. Let's see here. Song Fan says, hey, Dave, how do you feel about movies that already predicted the coronavirus? Contagion, Contracted, Netflix. Well, they're not predicting listen, I think we should be careful. It's not a movie about COVID-19, right? So it's not like they've predicted. I mean, there have been books going back to, Orwell's and Arthur C. Clarke. And if you want to go back, there are a lot of, there's a lot of material, literature and TV shows and movies that have predicted a virus pandemic, which is essentially what Contagion is about. right? So, I mean, it's not specifically about COVID-19, or specifically this strain. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a prediction movie. It's just a movie about a, global pandemic and what can happen when people get sick and infected. But people have been writing about that shit and making things for decades. I mean, that's nothing new. So what do I think about the movie? I think is more accurate. I like the movie a lot. I've seen it twice and I like it. It's good. And maybe I should watch it again just because of everything that's going on. But yeah, no, it's a good movie. Is that a Soderbergh film? I think that's Steven Soderbergh. I think. Yeah, it's good. I like it. Okay. Just making sure I didn't miss any super chats. Lauren Downey says, I love Once Bitten. I just watched that like 2 weeks ago. Is that a Jim Carrey movie? Or are you guys having another conversation? Maybe I'm having a brain fart here and I missed something. Who knows? Bobby Hall says, we need a Halloween series set during the time when Michael was in Smith's Grove. He could get married to an obsessed fan of his and Loomis could be the best man. You know what? I'm down with it. I'm down with it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm totally down. I think that would be actually really funny. Michael Dean says, Dave, do you think they will ever come out with another Friday the 13th movie? Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And if they're smart, they would hire Vincent DeSante to do it. Then Vince has to invite me to the set. Just saying, Vince. Just saying, Vinny. Just saying, you got to invite me to the set and so I can hang out. Vince, you got to have me in the movie, Vince. Have me in the movie and I get killed. That's what I want. It doesn't have to be a big role. Just throw me in there. Maybe I'm a radio jock and I'm on the air or something and Jason comes through and is like, and I'm like, something. I don't know. I got to go down. I got to go down for the count. Just saying, Vinny, wink, wink. But yeah, no, I mean, is there going to be another Friday the 13th movie? Absolutely, 100%. And in the meantime and in between time, you can get excited about Vince's Never Hike in the Snow, which is, oh my God, they're lucky. They just finished that just before this whole pandemic really took off here in North America. So it's like, oh, they're so lucky. Myself and Cecil, not so lucky, because obviously we were going to shoot Dylan's New Nightmare at the end of May. That obviously has been pushed. I was going to launch my Indiegogo campaign this month. That obviously is not happening for obvious reasons. So it's a little unfortunate. But when you're handed lemons, you make lemonade. And the good news is that it just gives us more time to develop and hone and tweak and make the projects the best we can. So, I mean, that's the good thing, but it's always a bit kind of like, damn, you know what I mean? But yes, there will definitely be another Friday the 13th film, 100%. When? Don't know. What about? Don't know. Who's going to be in it? Don't know. Who's going to play Jason? No idea, but there definitely will be one. Let's see. ACDC 113089 says, Dave, how do you like your pizza? Shaken but not stirred. No. That was lame. I would say that I like my pizza. Well, I like a good pineapple pizza. I do. I like my pineapple on pizza. Pineapple on pizza with sausage and bacon or something like that. Got to have meat on a pizza too. And dipping sauce. Got to have your dipping sauce. You can dip your pizza in. I think I just gained 30 pounds just thinking about it. Okay, Okay. Travis Gibbons says, I'm filming a short film with a Canon EOS 4 Ti. Okay. So it's a DSLR with a 7200 millimeter lens and was wondering what would be the best mic to use. Well, probably a shotgun, maybe a Rode shotgun microphone that you can attach to the film. I mean, it depends, it depends on the level that you're working at. I mean, if you're working at the professional independent route, you would hire somebody to do sound. So you would hire somebody to record it, all the dialogue and Foley separately, and they would be recording on a boom mic and, but that's that's a whole other level. If you are trying to mitigate that or try to sort of, you want something a little more budget friendly, but you don't want the onboard DSLR mic because it's going to sound hollow and far away, then the next step would be to get some sort of shotgun microphone, either from Rode or, Rode is the brand name, that you can attach to your DSLR, and that will give you more of a directional pickup, and therefore a little more professional. So it'll sound a little better. It won't sound quite as hollow or tinny. Do you know what I mean? But your actors still have to be in front of the camera. Like you can't be doing this and things like that. Like now you have a microphone that is going to pick them up when they're in front of the camera, but not so well when they're like off to the side or things like that, right? It's very much like this kind of thing and then that kind of thing. And do you know what I mean? So you want your actors to be in front of the camera, and speaking ideally kind of, in the direction of the camera, and whatnot. That would be that would be my advice. And you can Google that, or you can YouTube that, or YouTube just best DSLR mics. You know what I mean? Or best DSLR shotgun mics. YouTube that. And you'll see ones from Rode. You'll see ones that are, $100. You'll see ones that maybe are like $200 or $300. You know what I mean? And then watch reviews of them and make the best assessment and the best decision for your budget and your needs. Do you know what I mean? That would be my advice. And that would, look, is it going to be like, Hollywood movie kind of? No, but it's going to be light years ahead of just using the onboard microphone on your DSLR. I can tell you that. So that's what I would say. Does that make sense? Hopefully that made sense. Just DSLR, shotgun mics, things like that. And hopefully that'll help. Let me see. How is time? It's okay, an hour and 20 minutes. We'll go for a little bit longer here. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, do you think Hayden Christensen gets a bad rep for his acting? I believe it was George's directing that messed up his performance in the prequels. Well, probably wasn't just his directing, it was probably his writing in terms of dialogue, because George's, quipping about George's writing in terms of dialogue is nothing new to the prequels. They were doing that in the original trilogy. Harrison Ford famously said, George, you can type this shit, but you can't say it. And what he means by that is, the dialogue doesn't sound, you can type it, but if you were to read it verbatim, it doesn't sound natural. It doesn't sound conversational. It doesn't sound like something somebody would actually say. It sounds like it sounds a little too wooden and too formal and, not quite what we need, right? And George is notorious for that. So that's nothing new. So, when you see, hear lines in the prequels that sound a little wooden and kind of not, that's nothing new. And there's only so much an actor can do. And if you have sometimes when, if you have a director that, like I'm this kind of a director, and Bruce is like this too. But again, it depends on the information, right? It all comes down to the information. Sometimes you need your actor to say exactly what is there verbatim because the information that is being presented is it's integral that it is said in that way. And sometimes you can give a little leeway and you can say, well, as long as you get the same information out, don't be afraid to ad lib, if it helps, make it seem a little more conversational, a little more natural. As long as you're getting the same information out, you know what? Yeah, let's see what you can do. But George is notorious for not letting that happen, and he needs it verbatim. So that's why, even the most inconsequential things, he wants said exactly what's on the script, and sometimes it can be a little wooden. So it's not just his directing; it is his writing as well, I don't know. I really haven't seen Hayden Christensen in anything other than the Star Wars prequels. And he's not doing much now. His career never really took off from it. I don't think he's a particularly incredible actor or anything. I don't think he's a bad actor. I think he's probably just average, But then again, we haven't really seen him in a lot of things that we could see that. I mean, he has been in other things that he's done fine in, but his career never really took off. So, but there could be a variety of reasons for that. I mean, not just talent. I mean, there are decisions that actors make each and every day with, projects, representation. Sometimes they're just like, you know what, I had fun, I'm out. I have other interests that I want to do. Sometimes that does happen. So I don't know. It's hard to say. But definitely the writing in the prequels is, very, very suspect indeed. The Manhammer AR-15 says Friday the 13th remake starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Leonardo DiCaprio, Samara Weaving, and Samuel L. Jackson as the leads, and Dave Bautista as Jason Voorhees, and Samantha Morton as his mother. Talk about epic. Talk about never gonna happen, because talk about the money you would have to spend just on paying them. Let's not forget that. I mean, just on paying them alone. Never gonna happen. Lauren Downing says, Dave, can you wish my dad, Mike, a happy 60th birthday in your Trump voice? He, like I did last week for my 40th, is celebrating his B-Day in quarantine. He could use a good laugh. Mike, it's your 65th birthday, okay? It is your 65th. You are a tremendous 65. You are the best, okay? You are amazing. You don't look a day over 64. Well, actually, you're 65, and that's probably why you look over 65. But it doesn't matter, Mike. You are amazing. You have a lovely daughter in Lauren. She's a tremendous talent, and I just want to let you know that I'm the best, and your birthday party is canceled because I'm better than you. Okay, that's just the way it is. Happy birthday, you slime ball. I was making it up. I was trying to think of something. Then I said something that didn't make sense. I'm like, wait a minute. It doesn't matter because Trump says shit all the time. That doesn't make sense. So it doesn't matter. Okay. There you go. Happy birthday, Mike. Happy 65th birthday. And I have no doubt that in reality, you don't look a day over 50. But to Trump, Trump is fucking Trump. Shut up, Dave. Shut up. You're fired. Okay. Shut up. Get him out. That's what Trump would say to me. Let me see here. Song fans, Dave, do you think David Gordon Green reached out to the original Tommy Doyle to return for Halloween 2018? No, they didn't. Brian Andrews confirmed that they didn't, and I think that was the right decision. From a nostalgic perspective, it would have been great to see Brian Andrews reprise his role as Tommy Doyle. The problem is that Tommy Doyle has no professional representation. He doesn't have an agent. That's number one. Tommy Doyle. Brian Andrews, I think I said that right. Did I say Tommy Doyle has no official representation? If I did, I meant Brian Andrews. Brian Andrews has no official representation. That's a problem, okay? Because this is a SAG-AFTRA production. It's a union production. You cannot hire somebody who's not represented. Number two is Brian Andrews, I gather he has a lot of personal problems. A while back, I think it was before the end of the year, he had posted a conversation he had with somebody who, and it was a phone call that he was having with somebody who's looking after his mother or something. He's airing his dirty laundry, and it was a little kind of like, really, dude? Like, don't do that. I have no doubt you're going through some shit and you can talk, but don't air your dirty laundry. Anyway, he's got some problems, and I know that he was in financial problems, and he was like going to have to move or sell his house or something, or he was going to be out on the street. He's got problems. That's number two. And number three is they could, and because of 1 and 2, especially 2, but certainly 1 as well, he's a liability, and they cannot take that risk. They just can't do it. It's not really about the money. It would have been cheap to get him. They probably could have paid him, a couple $100,000 and he would have done it. The problem is it's really about liability. He can't be trusted because of the issues going on in his life right now, and they can't have him not show up on set, or they can't do that. And he's not represented. They can't just pay him, they need to, they have to go. It's a union production. So it's those factors. There may have been others as well, but those factors certainly played a role in not approaching Brian Andrews to reprise his role. So they went with Anthony Michael Hall. All right, we'll go for a few more minutes here, folks. A few more minutes. I like chatting with you guys. And wait, where'd it go? There we go. Darren Sands is here. Says, Brian Andrews is a very troubled individual. His Facebook feeds borders and incredibly worrying at times. Exactly what I was just saying. And that is no doubt one of the big reasons, and he's not represented. And it's like, well, we can't just, if you're not, you gotta, and he hasn't acted in, he's acted in little things, but he hasn't really acted in years, decades, really, at the end of the day. So, it was the right decision to, I understand from a nostalgic perspective, oh man, but that would have been so cool, but it's easier to hire, what's her face? Why am I blanking on her name? Anyway, it's easier to hire, fucking, the chat room will let me know. I'm blanking on her name. Brian Andrews and, I'm getting mixed up. I don't know why I'm getting two names in my head. Kylie Richards. That's it. Kylie Richards. Or Kyle Richards. I think it's Kylie, isn't it? I think she goes by Kyle. I mean, she's still in the business. She's a real housewife, wife, I should say. She's represented. She's, part of SAG-AFTRA. I mean, it's just easier. Stephen Moss says, hi, Dave. Jason Blum revealed a few days ago that the trailer for Halloween Kills is coming soon. How soon do you think we will get? Do you think it will be this month? Well, I said this a couple of days ago on the show. Soon it's a matter of interpretation. Jason Blum probably, look, could we get it next week? That's no, maybe. But really, I think, I still think the safe bet at the moment, if I was a betting man, I would still bet the end of May. Now, movies in June are being moved, okay? So it's possible that Candyman could also be moved. But in a perfect world, if COVID-19 was not happening, I think the trailer would be released at the end of May. Candyman releases at the beginning of June. Candyman is a Universal distributed film. It's not a Blumhouse film, but it is being distributed by Universal. I think that's a great movie to have Halloween Kills play in front of in terms of the trailer. And it makes sense to release the trailer online the week prior to that or the week of. Makes sense. And it's in and around what they did with Halloween 2018. That is my guess. I still think that is the goal, but if Candyman gets moved, could they release the Kills trailer online in April? Maybe. I don't like it. It all depends on what your interpretation of soon is. Soon could be the end of May. I mean, that is soon. That's soon. He could be saying soon just to keep the hype up, and he's not lying. So it is soon. I mean, we know it's not going to be if everything doesn't get pushed, if things like, and even if things do get pushed a bit, the trailer probably still will drop because you can drop that thing online. It's still going to be soon. Is it a hardcore fan's idea of soon, like next week? Or is it, more realistic to the process in terms of a couple of months from now? Yeah. It all depends on what your idea of soon is, but I think more than likely, don't read too much into soon as in like soon. Like it's more just soon. Yeah. He wants to keep the hype up there. He's not going to say eventually. He's not going to say sometime. He's going to say soon because he's probably not, no matter which way you slice it, he's not wrong. So that's my view on that. Let me see here. Super chat comes in from Bringer of Chaos. I love it. I hope H Kills keeps the same style of kills as H18. I like the off-screen reveal of kills, and if they up the gore, it could be even better. There is no doubt in my mind that they are going to go with those level of kills again. Yeah, for sure. And you will get a more, you're going to get definitely more violence. More blood and gore, for sure. Darren Sand says, trailers are not being released at the moment. There's no real point. I agree. I would imagine they are preparing for a they were preparing a trailer for CinemaCon, which has been subsequently canceled. Absolutely. No, I agree. And that's why, it's like at the moment, we haven't heard that Candyman has been pushed, but there are other movies being released in June that are being pushed. So I think it's just a matter of time until Candyman gets pushed as well. And Darren's absolutely right. I mean, there would be no reason to release a trailer right now if your movie's not coming out, because again, there are strategic marketing plans in place, and they want to give their films the best probability of success. They don't just arbitrarily release a trailer. They look at what others or release a movie. I mean, studios are looking all the time at what other studios are doing. They're looking at the demographics. They're looking at the counter programming. They're looking at, well, if Warner Brothers is releasing that there, dude, I don't know if we should. Maybe we should. I know you wanted to, but maybe we. That's happening all the time. It's very strategic on when movies are released. This is a multi-billion-dollar business, and it depends on the movie. It depends on of course the time of year and all that. But there are strategic marketing departments that take care of all this, and they plan. And if Halloween Kills is going to be pushed, you may not see the trailer in June. You might. I mean, they might do something weird like that, but you may not. Because they want to, because that's part of their marketing campaign. They don't want to market too early to create a false sense of security and then sort of peak and climax too soon with their marketing. They don't want to do that, right? They want to be able to market appropriately and peak at the right time with the movie coming out. So if Halloween Kills does get pushed to, let's say, March of 2021, it's possible you may not see a trailer till the end of the summer or the fall. That is possible. Let's keep that in mind. Not impossible, but probable. Because they don't want to peak unnecessarily too soon, because this is a business after all, folks. And Darren's bang on with that, 100%. Did Super Chat come in? Oh no, I did. I read that one. I read that Super Chat. Suicide Squad Kid says, "Hey Dave, I don't mean to offend anybody. It's a great way to start. Don't worry about it. I offend people all the time. But I had a dream the other night that made me curious. What if Michael Myers would now be portrayed as a homosexual?" Well, you'd have to give me context to the dream, because I have no context to that. So I'm not really, that's interesting. There's nothing that has been alluded to that. I don't think that's something that is necessary to the character, but you would have to give me context to the dream of why you came to that conclusion. But that's interesting. Let me see here. Aaron Ponder says, "Is it going to water it down with kills and ends in the same night?" That's always, maybe, I don't know. It all depends. But I think it was the right thing to do under the circumstances. Like for me, I don't even know if I would have done 2 more movies. Clearly they have an idea, and they said this like early on, that they had an idea to do 2 more movies. My sequel concept idea was just 1 extra movie, because I'm just like, how do I stretch this into another movie? And I wanted it to pick up exactly where 2018 left off in my sequel concept. That's why my sequel concept does pick up. And I did that long before any news came out about Halloween Kills being, like that. And that's why at the beginning of my sequel concept, I say any sort of similarities between my concept and Kills is just a coincidence. But I think, when Halloween, filmmaking in the genre, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to sort of, come up with an idea of probability of what's going to happen. I mean, thinking that Kills was, of course, at the time I didn't know it was called Kills, but thinking that the sequel was going to pick up where the first one left off wasn't, I mean, it's kind of 50-50 there. You know what I mean? So based on everything, but I can't even think of how they're going to extend it into 2 movies on the same night. I do agree that it should pick up on the same night, for sure. But two extra movies the same night? They've got something that I don't know. They've got, I mean, I hope it doesn't feel shoehorned in. Like I hope it doesn't feel like by the time we get to Halloween Ends, halfway through that movie, we're like, yeah, this feels like a movie that should have ended 20 minutes ago. We've all been there. We've all seen movies that are like that, right? I'm hoping this isn't one of those things. I have no doubt Kills will probably be quite entertaining from beginning to end. It's sticking the landing that concerns me for a variety of reasons. So yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I am. Let me just go back, make sure I didn't miss any super chat. Bringer of Chaos was the last one. Good. DMT Infinity says, Dave, what is your favorite Freddy Krueger induced nightmare? Like in the movies? I've never had a nightmare of Freddy. In the movies, well, my favorite is the death of Tina. I think it is the quintessential Freddy Krueger kill. I think it is one of the most, I can only imagine in 1984, and obviously I wasn't old enough to see the movie. I was only 5 in 1984, but I can imagine if I was old enough to go to the movie theater and watch that movie. I mean, that must have been spellbinding. I mean, that must have been like shocking, and just to see that in 1984. I mean, her on the ceiling and moving around, Tina, fucking wild. Still to this day, in my opinion, not only in my opinion, the best Elm Street kill, and there's a lot of good ones that can, a lot of good ones. It is one of the greatest horror slasher murders in cinematic history. Hands down. Maybe the greatest. I mean, it's just fucking scary and wild. Love it. Love that shit. Especially for its time. Like, especially for its time. Do you know what I mean? Crazy stuff. Let's see here. Bobby Hall says, Dave, when you make your films, do you sync the audio manually or use a program that does it automatically? I would think doing it manually would take a long time if there's a lot of footage. No, you do it manually. Yeah, no. Because when you shoot a movie, okay, if you were shooting a movie, you have the boom operator, right? They are recording dialogue and sound and Foley and things like that. And that is being recorded separately, digitally separately. And then those files are then imported into the editing software. Sometimes they're imported into audio software to take out background noise or whatever additional things you need to do. But then it's imported into the video editing software, whatever that is, Final Cut, Avid, Adobe Premiere, Sony Vegas, whatever you're using. And then you have to manually line up and sync the audio to the appropriate dialogue. And that's how it's done. I'm not aware of a program that does it automatically because the program would then have to know like which takes you want and where to line up. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm not aware of a program that is intelligent enough yet to know that. I mean, you would have to tell that. Yeah, I'm not aware. I mean, maybe one exists. I have no idea. But as far as I know, it's all manually done. So, yeah, there's that. Big G sends in a super chat. Jason versus Myers. Who would win? Well, again, I say this. Whenever anybody asks me a versus question, who do you think would win? It is inevitable that they always fail to include which version of these characters are we talking about? Is it New Blood Jason versus Dick Warlock Myers? Well, I think New Blood Jason would destroy Dick Warlock Myers. Is it Rob Zombie Myers versus New Blood Jason? Well, then maybe we've got something going on there. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It all depends on which version. it depends on which version of these characters you want to have. So got to keep that in mind. All right, we'll go for another 5 minutes, folks. Another 5 minutes here on episode 38 of McRae Live. Thank you for tuning in as well, guys. I really appreciate it, and thank you for the super chats as well. Of course, they keep this channel going, and really appreciate it as well. I think you guys are amazing. I can see you guys having conversations with yourselves, and we're building a community here. You know what I mean? And I'm just having a ball doing it, and it's just a lot of fun. And for those of you that again have asked, are you ever going to do a standalone video again? Of course, they're going to be not as often as these live shows, of course. But yes, when I will do it. Absolutely, I've done it. There's a few on my channel I've done in this new era of the channel. But something has to intrigue me enough to do it. And right now, especially because of COVID-19, things are very far in the world of entertainment, and certainly in our sort of specified niche area in the world of horror and Halloween and Elm Street and Friday and Scream. The information is not as out there, right? So, but oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. Don't worry, I will again. I will. But these live shows are. I made that transition to the live shows on a more regular basis because it's better for me and my time, and it's more interactive with you guys. You know what I mean? And I get to interact with you guys in real time, which is always a lot of fun. And a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people are going that podcast kind of, route. Nick Kunda sends a super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. He says, what's the best character impression you can do? Oh, I have no idea. I don't fancy myself an impressionist. There's a difference between an impressionist and a voice actor, right? Not all voice actors can do impressions because it's not a requirement. And so I don't really know. I don't fancy myself an impressionist. So I'm not really sure. I'd have to think on that. Good question, but let me think on that. I don't know, maybe Christopher Walken? I don't know. Like maybe like, hello, your shoes are tied. They're tied. You need to do up your shoes. Come on. But that's not an impression of Christopher Walken, right? An impression of Christopher Walken. I mean, it's a matter of, semantics. But in the world of voiceover and impressions and acting, we wouldn't consider that an impression. That would just be like me saying, me kind of doing a little quip. An impression of Christopher Walken would be if I could talk like him without breaking character for like 10 minutes. And it's like, oh my God, that sounds like Christopher Walken. Like this, for example, yeah, come on, yeah, do it, come on. That's not an impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger. There are people online that can talk like Arnold for like 10 minutes and you close your eyes, you're like, holy fuck, that's Arnold. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's an impression of Arnold. So I'm not really good at impressions. I can do original kind of funny things like, hey man, hey, what's going on, all crazy stuff, but they're not really impressions of certain people. Thank you for the super chat though, buddy. Really appreciate it. Big G sends a super chat and says, Jason 2009 versus Myers 2018. Who wins? Ooh, I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm going to say, like, I've only seen the 2009 Friday the 13th once. I'm going to say, based on size alone, Jason might have that upper hand. He might have that upper hand just a little bit. Just a little bit. But I don't know. But Michael always has the advantage, even when he's a bit smaller, because he has that insidious, lurking kind of thing, and Jason could turn around and Michael could be gone, and then Michael could come out of nowhere and stab him when he's not looking. And, that is the advantage that Michael has. No matter which version of him you're talking, that is an advantage. Doesn't matter. Good question. A haunting autumn sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, a haunting autumn. Says, hey Dave, big fan of the channel. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, man. Curious, what elements and characteristics would you like to see in horror icons of the future? That's a good question. I don't know, because horror is forever evolving and changing. And, when we think of horror icons, we tend to think of the slasher subgenre, and the slasher subgenre is not really a big thing anymore. People tend to say, well, yeah, but look at Halloween, 2018, it made $250 million at the worldwide. Yes, but that's not because the slasher subgenre is back and everybody's crazy about it. That's because it was the first Halloween movie that was released in October since Halloween 5. Pretty crazy. That's because it had nostalgia riding on it. Jamie Lee Curtis was back. Nick Castle was back. John Carpenter was back, right? It was a direct sequel to the original film. You know what I mean? It was a Blumhouse. There's a lot of factors in there of why that movie made bank and why it did really well. One of which is not because the slasher subgenre is huge again. People would be excited about Friday the 13th, Elm Street, and Candyman, but they're already proven, they're old shit, right? They're tapping into the nostalgia. Nobody's creating an original slasher guy and making $200 million at the box office. So when we talk about horror icons, I assume that's what you mean. Horror icons like a Freddy and a Jason and a Michael. I don't think we're moving in that direction. I think we will see Freddy again. I think we will see Jason again. I think we will see Ghostface again, but they're already proven IPs and properties. Now, whether they make $250 million at the box office or not, that's yet to be seen, but they're already proven IPs. They're not, it's not, Hacksaw Jim, that nobody's ever heard of. I just don't think we're in that era anymore. And I think the slasher subgenre for the most part, is really B-movie at best. And I think we're becoming more mature and sophisticated with our horror, and we're moving more towards psychological. And I'm excited for it because I think that's really where the scary shit is. So it's hard to say. But if there is another horror icon that gets up there with Freddy and Jason, it'll probably be in the realm of the independent scene, like your Art the Clown, right? Now, I don't think Art the Clown is iconic, but some people think of him that way because there's not a lot going on. There's not a lot of competition in the slasher subgenre. So Art the Clown stands out to you because there's not a lot of competition at the moment. But I think that's where you will see a lot of those icons, sort of give birth if we do, because that's sort of the slasher, that's where it is now. It's more of the independent scene. Whereas like 30, 40 years ago, that was horror. It wasn't just horror, but that was, horror movies were that. Not so much anymore. So, okay. Last question of the day, super chat. This is Althusser 2. Thank you very much, buddy. Says, Dave, I think an important theme of H18 has been overlooked. Obsession. Example, Sartain's, Laurie's, and crucially ours with Michael Myers. Thoughts? Well, that is part of it. I don't think that's necessarily overlooked. I think maybe fans overlook it's like in my review, which is one of the only reviews I've done on my channel of Halloween 2018, I said that I had a like-hate or a love-hate, I probably said a like-hate relationship with Dr. Sartain. Because I actually like the character. I hate what they did with him. And I think because a lot of fans hate what they did with the character, and again, it's a matter of just, semantics, but a lot of fans will say they hate the Dr. Sartain character. When in reality, I think if some fans were to think about it a little more clearly, they don't actually hate the character. They hate what they did with the character. And that's how I like that he was, a student of Dr. Loomis, and he knew him, and, he had a different approach than Loomis, and that he wanted to know about the psyche and this, and he was obsessed with getting him and, Laurie together. I like all that. I think it's a cool angle, and I love the actor who played him and his accent. And sure, is he the Loomis-esque type character in the movie? Sure. But I think him and Laurie sort of share that role. But in the movie, it is spelled out that he is obsessed with him, so obsessed with him that they make him do a dumb fucking thing that makes people hate the character. I think there was a better way to get Laurie to Michael. I think there was a better way to utilize Sartain in that moment. I wouldn't have killed him. I wouldn't have killed Hawkins. I think Hawkins comes back. Just a hunch. But I wouldn't have killed Sartain. At least not like that, not in that moment. I'm not going to say I wouldn't have killed Sartain, but I think there are better ways to do it. It just felt cheap and shoehorned. It felt like we needed a way to get Michael to Laurie, so let's, I just didn't like what they did with the character. But I do agree with what you're saying. And I do think that that is an interesting angle that could potentially be part of the subtext of Halloween Kills. We know that in Halloween Kills, part of the subplot is the deconstruction of the trauma, as Jamie Lee Curtis likes to say, of how the effects of the 2018 film, the residual effects, affected these characters: Tommy, Lindsay, Marion, Laurie, and I like that. As long as I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll close with this: as long as you don't dissect Michael Myers. Now, you have Marion Chambers, who's no doubt going to maybe give some exposition and some insight. That's cool, but Michael must remain an enigma. You can't just spill out this diarrhea of exposition that explains why he's the way he is, or even alludes to a high probability of the why he's the way he is. The character must remain an enigma, must remain ambiguous. We don't know why. There's little tidbits that might go, but the deconstruction must be of those characters, not Michael Myers. That's how I see it anyway. Anyways, folks, that is going to do it for me on episode 38 of McRae Live. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the super chats. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to all the non-super chat questions. Of course, as usual, I obviously have to answer the super chat questions first, and I'm very thorough for obvious reasons, but keep trying. If you didn't send in one and you say, keep trying, man, I'll be here every week. Keep trying. Maybe I'll come across yours. It's never personal. Just know that I appreciate your support. I appreciate you being there and tuning into the show and just being here, guys, because we have created a little community here, which I think is really awesome. And I will be back. I might be back sometime over the weekend. You never know. A reminder to my level 3 patrons who are watching: tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thorazine, the Halloween only AMA. Just a reminder to you guys, so don't forget to tune into that. And if I'm not back at some point over the weekend, which I might be, you never know. This COVID-19 thing is keeping us inside. I will definitely be back on Monday night for episode, I think it's 64, is it now, of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Tony and I are watching the original Poltergeist from 1982, so you may want to tune into that. That's at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday night. So that is going to do it for me, folks. Have a great weekend if I don't speak to you again until Monday, but you never know with me. I tend to pop on from time to time. Got to keep you guys on your toes. Got to keep you guys guessing. You never know what's going to happen. But have a great rest of your weekend. Stay safe. Physical distance, don't social distance. Keep in touch with your family and friends, folks, and each other. All right, folks, in the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.